So crypto and Bitcoin have bounced, but is that the bottom? I'm going to go ahead and share my thoughts on where I think crypto can head next, as well as an important message that you need to hear to help you with your crypto and Bitcoin trading this month. So you don't want to miss that. Let's go ahead and break it down, get to the charts. As always, if you've not yet subscribed, make sure to do so. I do live streams as well each and every week where I also give away Bitcoin to one listener on the show. So again, subscribe if you haven't, get those updated notifications because we love to break down Bitcoin. Nothing is financial advice, by the way. But with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the chart because Bitcoin has bounced at around 107. And so, yeah, it looks pretty good right now. Now, the only issue is that it's going to be slow paced. And I'll go ahead, I'll break that down in a few minutes on my thoughts. But Bitcoin right now is back under the previous range. Of course, we've been ranging from 112 to 124. As you know, we broke below the range. Now we're going back up and retesting that area. Now, I've got this marked quite a bit on the chart with different lines and moving averages, but my key level still, if you haven't watched my shows, I want Bitcoin to break 117. If it cannot break 117K, I can't be bullish. So until it does that, it's hard for me to be bullish on Bitcoin as far as retesting a new high. But it's okay to buy and trade Bitcoin down at the lows at 107, at 112 potentially for a trade up to 117. Now, naturally, if you're a trader, this is going to be important. If you're an investor, it doesn't really matter because you're going to dollar cost average in Bitcoin regardless of where it's at. And as we know, the best time to do that is during pullbacks. And we do know that Bitcoin is currently pulled back from its all-time high of 124. Now, the key here is I want to see Bitcoin break and create a new pattern because it's been in a downtrend, right? These are lower highs across the board right now. What I want to see is Bitcoin to actually break back above this previous level here. And it would be great to see Bitcoin break above 113, maybe on the daily chart, especially on the 4-hour chart. And so if I were to break that down, again, this white line right here, I want to see Bitcoin come above this line and then hold that. And I think we could get a retest of this 116 to 117 level, which was the previous CME gap. Not that gaps matter, but they eventually get filled, but that could be weeks away. It's at 116 to 117K. If we don't retest it now, that's not a big deal. But again, a lot of people will be eyeing that to take profit. But my key area is this 113,300 level on the 4-hour chart. I want to get a higher low. I want to change the trend here, and that's what I want to talk about. And I need Bitcoin to prove itself and show higher highs on the trend. Now, overall, Bitcoin looks pretty good on this bounce right here. But again, we're just bouncing. It is higher lows, and we have put in lower lows as well. So it still is a downtrend. We're going to get green on a downtrend. There's going to be days of green in a row on a downtrend. So I'm not bullish and I'm not bearish either way. I am bullish moderate term, meaning that in 3 to 6 months, we're going to be much higher with Bitcoin price in my personal opinion. But Bitcoin can still continue to pull back in this time. And that's because we've got a lot of information going on this coming week. We've got the non-farm payrolls, all the job data coming out, PPI, CPI in the next couple of weeks, and of course, FOMC in middle of September, meaning for Bitcoin, it really is a big week when it comes to, a big month for Bitcoin when it comes to the price. And there's probably going to be a lot of volatility. So it's really hard for me to really say either way where we could go because we could get job data this coming week that could actually be bad for price pull back, then FOMC come out and then price push up, or price could actually pump into FOMC and then pull back from there. It's hard to know either way. Just know volatility ahead. There's a lot of good things, though, when it comes to Bitcoin moderate term. But we are currently in a downtrend with Bitcoin. It has been green the last few days. I want to see 112, 113 break and hold on the 4-hour to daily chart. From there, I think we can move up to 116, 17. Now, take it day by day, guys. We don't want to sit here and speculate on 130, 140 yet. Let's break 116 first, then we'll talk about it. So that's kind of my thoughts with Bitcoin. But, you know, as far as the SPX and the stock market, basically what I'm showing here is that the stock market's going sideways. And so if you think Bitcoin is a little slow here, Of course, with the stock market going sideways and not going up, again, that's going to tend to help Bitcoin move up a little bit if the stocks are pumping. We've seen a little bit of correlation here in the last few days, but overall, Bitcoin is going sideways. And really, that's my message for you guys. And that's really what I wanted to talk about is patience. Because with this, I think if you're watching this, you know that Bitcoin and crypto is going to head a lot higher in the next 6 months. And so my message to you for September, potentially in early October, is patience. And so just because we're hitting lower highs doesn't mean that this can't turn around at any moment. And so just because, I'm not necessarily bullish right now doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't just blast into the atmosphere in the coming days to weeks. It certainly can. A lot of people are expecting more of a pullback, including myself. So if majority are thinking that, it, can tend to be wrong sometimes. But I'm pretty accurate with my analysis over the years when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto. And if we can't break above 112, 113, I do think that Bitcoin in the coming weeks can reject and go a little bit lower. And this is where you want to look at the buy from 105 down here to 103. Okay, this area is a buy opportunity. I think anything below sub 100K would get bought up instantly. If you're dollar cost averaging, you're in a good place anyway. So want to break this level. If we can't break it, I think we could get, of course, lower lows, lower highs, but there's nothing to fear there because on the weekly, if I can go ahead and get rid of some of this drawing here because it's flooded with markings, but what I don't want to see is I don't want to see Bitcoin close the weekly under 100K. I don't want to see a lower low on this weekly overall trend. Okay, I want to see it continue to bounce and to continue to go higher. So I'm fine with a wick down here below, but I don't want this trend to break. And that's just kind of what I'm breaking down. Now, we did break down the year before. And again, though, if you were to zoom out, regardless, Bitcoin continues to hold this weekly 50 EMA, okay? So again, bounces. If it gets down here, I expect another bounce as well, but I still don't want to see the weekly close below that. I think that there has been some strength there. I think that there will also be a lot of buyers between the recent low of 107 all the way down to 100K, okay? So again, don't want to speculate anything. Let's break 112, 113. And if we break down, let's break 107 before talking about 95K or lower. So again, take it day by day. We do know that the Fed, 95% probability of cutting rates. We already knew that. And I think that it's going to be priced in. And so my big thing here is patience with September. As I said earlier, that's the message for you. And let me go ahead and break this down as well too. Here is a chart of the S&P 500 index around the first cut following easing cycle pauses. Basically, this month on the 15th, 16th, 17th, the Federal Reserve will likely start to cut rates. What happens after that? What happens with price? Typically with the SPX, what we tend to see right here is that you notice that this is overall, when it comes to the price, that we tend to see that price pulls back within the first month, okay? So here at the bottom here, 0 to 1, this is months post-cut. Notice that it tends to go down within the first month. And then what do we see over the long haul? We see a long-term rally for the next year or so. So what I'm just trying to say is you have to be patient. Even if the Federal Reserve cuts rates, doesn't mean that the prices are just going to naturally skyrocket. There's going to be a little bit of a shock into the systems. And it's not a bad thing. If you know this ahead of time, you're going to be prepared for what's to come. Potentially more of a pullback, and those are buying the dip opportunities, which we know 6 to 12 months out potentially can be a lot higher. And I do hope that it goes lower. And I hate to say that, but I do hope Bitcoin price goes lower. I would love to buy Bitcoin price at 105, 103, 100, even below 100 in dollar cost average in. And if that happens, that's going to give massive opportunity here in the next 6 months. So that's just what you have to know when it comes to patience. Whether or not they cut rates or not, if they do, doesn't mean that there's going to be an automatic just blast in prices of assets across the board. But what's going to happen. Why do assets go up in price? Because not only for speculation, but when there's lower rates, you can borrow more money. Funds can borrow more money, millions, billions of dollars. They can borrow money. They can buy risk assets with it over time. And so it takes a little time for that reaction to happen. And I think that's why you see that lagging effect when it comes to a pullback initially, post federal rate cut, and then it move up after that. So that's just something that you want to know. Now, as far as ETH and ETH BTC, ETH has actually bounced. It's actually been in an uptrend since July here. This is the daily chart. This is the 20 EMA on the ETH BTC chart. So it's showing that, of course, ETH has been outperforming Bitcoin over the past few months. And right now, currently bouncing after a pullback, ETH right now has actually looked quite strong. But if you zoom in and you want to know where to buy here for Ethereum, it's currently rejecting again on this 4-hour level. And the problem is that on this trend for Ethereum on the 4-hour chart, it's basically looking like, again, right? You got these lower highs and you've got lower lows. So on this kind of intraday chart, you've got a downtrend, which hopefully can break above this. And I think if it can break above this level, then what you're going to see is ETH break above here and then retest this level right here at 46.40, hopefully to break that to, again, retest those highs. You just take it level by level when it comes to trading, but it needs to break this. If it can't break this, the market didn't prove itself bullish, and then I would assume that it's going to come back down here and have a lower low on this trend. But the good news is, if you zoom out, okay, so we'll go ahead and get rid of all these right here. If you zoom out and you go to the daily chart, what you're going to notice, though, is on the daily chart, even though the intraday is down, the daily chart continues to have higher highs and higher lows. So for me, speculating, the daily chart always out-trumps the intraday chart. It's always more important. So with that, I do believe that if we can get a higher high here and continue on up, that this could be a potential bottom for Ethereum. So the daily chart looks good. I still want to see the daily chart break above this 46.50 level or so. And then that, if that can break, then I do think that we retest these highs and potentially put in a higher wick here for Ethereum. So breaking it down level by level, trade by trade, it's what I want to do here to prepare you, to allow you to know how to trade this, what to watch for, to know that whether you should be bullish or bearish short term when it comes to any asset, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, Solana has looked strong. The thing about Solana is that on the intraday time frames, the big thing with Solana is that I wanted it to hold these levels right here. And so Solana broke down, and I did say it needs to break above 198 and hold that. Well, look what Solana did. Now, it's had an uptrend here, okay, on the intraday time frame. And the good news is, too, is that it was able to hold that. And now this level of 198 to 196 is actually having support. So acting as support, which is a good thing. Now, for me, looking at this chart, naturally, I'm going to say I think that it's going to put a higher high in next. So don't be shocked if you do see Solana back over 220 within the coming days, depending on how the market reacts with the job claims. But it is looking good. I want to see 96 to 90, 198 to 196 hold. If it can hold, I do expect we're going to continue to see 220 or above when it comes to Solana. So that's just really breaking down the market, the current levels that you need to watch for ETH, Solana, Bitcoin, the major crypto assets. Just overall know that crypto is looking really good. Even Ray Dalio said today that, U.S. debt threatens the dollar. And so he even discussed fueling demand for crypto and gold as alternatives, and he's never really done that before. So that's really bullish in general for crypto. We continue to see legitimacy come across the board with ETFs, and now major fund managers and billionaires continue to talk really well about Bitcoin. And so if we continue to see this, know that there will likely be continual adoption from people, normal retail people, funds, banks, whoever, continue to grow over time. So it's nothing but bullish for Bitcoin and crypto. And that's why I say, I hope Bitcoin pulls back to 105 to 103 to 100K again, because if it does, those are going to be phenomenal buying opportunities. Okay. So just know patience is going to be important for September. And if you can realize that, even if we're getting a pullback, it's going to be slow. It's not going to be a fast process. But if you can manage and make it through this month, going into mid-October, I think that you're going to be very, very in a good place when it comes to the market uptrending here, hopefully in Q4. The only other thing that I want to talk about today in crypto is if you trade on chain and not Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Solana, just know that there's a new narrative that's really forming right now, and that is with collector cards, especially around Pokemon. And so we're seeing right now, there's something called cards, a token actually on Solana that's doing really well. That's up like 10x though the last couple of days. So it's really pumped really high, but the overall circulating supply is only around 10% of the fully diluted value. So around 40 million market cap right now with 10% overall supply. Just know that overall though, the only downside of that is that it will get diluted over time, hopefully slowly, but that can put sell pressure on the price. But there is definitely a narrative with this going on with the collector cards. So collector crypt is what this is called. And of course, they are related with RWA, real world assets of Pokemon cards on Solana. So you can go ahead and check that out. Again, I am not touting any of these for you to buy. I'm just making you aware so that you're not late to the party when it comes to narratives in crypto. And one of those specifically right now that is really getting hot is collector cards, Pokemon cards, etc. And another one as well too that's very low cap, so a lot higher risk, is TCG. In TCG overall, of course, you can win rare Pokemon cards with TCG. Holding that, purchasing TCG, and they have pools, and that is just another Pokemon card collectible type of asset that is lower. Again, 2 to 3 million market cap currently during this video. Again, very volatile. It pushed from 1 million to 6 million, back down to 1 million to 3 million. So very volatile with these on-chain assets. Again, high risk, so make sure that you never put in more than you can afford to lose, but just understand this. I don't have a lot of time today to break these down, but really what I want to say is just be aware that the Pokemon collector cards, of course, billions and billions of dollars in the world with these types of assets. A lot of people love them, whether you're an adult or whether you're a kid. So really, this is something that can really take off when it comes to collector cards. So maybe we'll see this as the next big overall narrative when it comes to crypto, outside of AI, outside of memes. But collector cards, of course, is red hot right now. So just keep an eye on these as well as any others that you find. You can go ahead and drop them below. If you've seen any other collector card type of projects in crypto, would love to hear about them. Drop them below in the comments and I'll check them out. Okay, guys? But just know that you have to have patience when it comes to crypto. Bitcoin overall, we want to see that 112 to 113K level break. If that breaks, then we'll eye 116, 117, and only then will we eye the next all-time high in Bitcoin. But you do have to be patient. But a lot of great buying opportunities are ahead, especially if the market does pull back. We got to take it day by day. And I'll go ahead and fill you guys in here in the coming days when it comes to the job data and all that information and how that will impact the market. So make sure that you keep those notifications on. But you guys, make sure to also keep those limit bids on as well too, because if Bitcoin price drops, you're going to want to have some funds on the side to capture that before the next 6 months, which I think will be a very, very big uptrend in the making. With that said, you guys, I'll see you on the next video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Trade safe, and I will see you on the next one.